Are now live streaming. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us tonight in Torah for the Nations YouTube channel and B'nai Noach Connection with Israel Facebook page. Also, those of you that are tuned in to Power Faith Radio, we're so glad to have you all here tonight. And Terry, are you recording? Veronica just reminded us. Are you? I didn't know if you were doing that or not, but thank
No,
you.
I forgot to do that. We were jawing, so hold on.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Everybody here in the Zoom room, you're going to get a notification. Recording in progress. Just hit that. Got it. All right. Again, thank everybody for coming tonight. Thank you so much. I'm real excited about what Terry is going to present to us tonight. It is something that it will actually benefit every B'nai Noach that'll listen. And I really like the way you titled that, Terry, but I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to let you bring that out. Although I did copy it and put it in the into the bulletin tonight about tonight's class /meeting. So, Terry, if you'll welcome everybody again and welcome everybody in the Zoom room, I'm going to go ahead and get ready for our time of tzedakah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome Power Faith Radio. Thank you for joining in with us again tonight for our Wednesday night class. Our Facebook group, well, not ours, Rabbi Pesach's Facebook group, B'nai Noach Connection with Israel, and the live Zoom as well. That's in that group as well. You can come and join us in the Zoom room, or you can listen to it or watch it via live stream in the Facebook group B'nai Noach Connection with Israel, and his YouTube channel, Torah for the Nations YouTube channel. You can participate by watching in there, and there's some live chat in both of those. So if you got any questions, feel free to ask. Those that are watching the chats, I don't get a chance to see them very much. If we get any questions, just let me know, and we will just take it from there. Just want to greet everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Tonight, I'm going to be speaking on the holiday for all humanity. And a large part of this lesson tonight is not only about that particular holiday, but one of the things it represents. It represents many different things, but I'm going to be in one topic area that we're going to be covering about this holiday. And I'm looking forward to sharing some things with you tonight. Are we ready, Scotty, for tzedakah?
We are ready. We are ready. Let me get the right one over here. I put it right here in front of me. We're going to do tzedakah time tonight in this beautiful tzedakah box that was sent to us from a girls' school. I did check into that this week, and it's a girls' school up in New York. And I don't know if somebody sent this to us affiliated with the girls' school, but it's a Jewish school up in New York. And but whoever sent that, we thank you so much for that. We're going to be using this for our tzedakah time tonight. We want to give tzedakah praise tonight, if there's such a thing as that. I want to give a thank you tzedakah tonight, and for Amber Hayes. Has Terry, you want to tell us about Amber's surgery, her coming through her surgery, as I give the tzedakah tonight for her?
Yeah, we actually FaceTime with her a little bit here before class. She's 33. She was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and she had a large nodule, fast growing nodule on one side, and a small one just on the other side. And it was found by her. She went in for her regular annual woman checkup, and her doctor found it and turned her onto an amazing doctor that did the surgery. He gave her all the stipulations going in. He said he had a special tool, and I thought this was interesting. This is something we found out tonight. He had a special tool as he was in there working to remove the thyroid. if he got there's some nerves in there that if you damage them, you permanently lose your voice, and you also lose the capability of breathing. And so he could even end up having to have a feeding tube and all of that if they're damaged. But he has a special tool that senses a nerve, and the machine goes off if he gets too close to it. So I thought that was interesting. But when he got in there, he removed the side that had all the cancer in it, and he started over to the other side, and the nerve wasn't wanting to cooperate. It wasn't doing what it needed to be doing. So he backed off. He said he had a small little bitty place on it, and he's left that part of her thyroid in. He didn't remove the whole thing. And they're going to check and keep a watch on it to make sure that it's not cancerous. But he did said, I got the side that had all the cancer in it that we found. He was able to remove all of that. Everything looked good behind it. And then we found out today that because she didn't have all of that removed, she's not going to have to take the thyroid medicine the rest of her life. She doesn't even have to go back to the doctor tomorrow. And so they're going to keep an eye on that spot. But if it turns out just to be a spot and it's not cancerous, she will not have to take the hormone medicine that most people have to, people have to take when they have the thyroid taken out. So that was good news.
Yes.
Everything for us. So I want to thank y'all for your prayers. Thank you for your tzedakah for my daughter. She's just got a few days. She's got a drainage tube in. It's, draining, from the surgery. She goes in here in a few days and has that removed and everything. But she's got some good reports today and yesterday. So thank y'all.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
And yes, and Baruch Hashem first. I'm going to praise the Creator first.
Yes. That's great. That's great news. Next one we're giving tzedakah for. We always give tzedakah for Sally Justice. She means so much to us. One of these days, Terry, I'd love to jump in a vehicle and take off drive and meet all of our friends. And we might have to be on the road for a year to get to everybody, but I would love that. Wouldn't you love that? Just travel and see everybody. It might be hard to get to Amuella, but I bet we can do it. We can do it, Amuella.
Just crash those gates of Canada and just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. So we've given tzedakah for Sally Justice tonight. Also, we had tzedakah sent in for Larry Beck. He kindly got in a little bit of argument with I believe it was a table saw, and I don't know who won. I didn't get to see the table saw to see its end result, but I did see that Larry had kindly messed up the tip of his finger. So we're giving tzedakah that heals okay. And also for Sheila Schaus, that's Thomas Schaus's mother, giving tzedakah for her tonight. We're also giving tzedakah for Tina Lyons tonight. She also had her gallbladder removed, and she's still having some issues there. We're giving tzedakah tonight, as always, for you, Thomas. Somebody sent in some tzedakah for you, so we're putting that in our tzedakah box. I have to use something here to, they show you how to put it in, but they don't show you how to pack it in the tzedakah box. I'm having to use a tool here to pack it on in there. And also tonight, Veronica Port, we have some tzedakah to give for you tonight. And Thomas, did I mention your name? I did mention your name. I'm losing track of where I'm at. Jeremy Kibbe, we've got some tzedakah for Jeremy Kibbe tonight. We've also got tzedakah, as always, Richard Helton. He's going through grave medical issues, so we're just looking for something in his behalf. Also, Rabbi Pesach Sherbo and his wife, we're giving tzedakah for them tonight. And I'm getting all this in here. And we're about to go to our birthday tzedakah tonight. Okay, I'm going to put that over there. And everybody, we have a special, starting off with a special. We've got 3 or 4 birthdays, but we're starting off with a special tzedakah birthday tonight. And that is Amuella Asher. And she'll never know how much that We love her. We love seeing her in all the classes. You know, about every class I jump in, she's there already. You know, she's coming in and she loves to learn. She has great knowledge. It surprises me sometimes, Well, I'm just going to tell you this to bless you with this, that there'll be sometimes somebody will ask a question and you will begin to answer. And I'm thinking, wow, she is very smart and very talented on the computer. If I misplace the keys to the engine room, and Amuel knows what I'm talking about, I'll put the key under the mat for you, Amuela. Okay, we're giving in our birthday tzedakah tonight for Amuela. Thank you so much, honey. We love you. And then also we have Jamal James giving tzedakah for him. He had a birthday this week. Alex Berg giving tzedakah for him. He had a birthday this week. David Summers, we're giving tzedakah for him. And last but not least, Nick Mooney giving tzedakah for you tonight. Listen, I want to tell you all these names that are mentioned during our time of tzedakah. We're doing this class/meeting for you tonight and doing it in the name. Let's see, how would I say that? How do you say that? We're doing it for you, in honor of you. How do you say that exactly, Terry?
Well, we're about dedicating the class.
Yes.
Yeah, we're dedicating the teaching of the Torah on behalf of everyone that is mentioned in the tzedakah.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Terry. Thank you so much. I couldn't have said it better myself. I also want to give this reminder, and I will tell this again before the meeting is over tonight. We had such a great time again with Rabbi Pesach Sherbo last Sunday night. He will be back this coming Sunday night at 10 p.m. New York time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will be live streaming that event as same as we do this. And it will also be broadcasted on Power Faith Radio. We've got some great questions, and I'm trying to put them together to send to Rabbi Pesach, and I'll get them probably to him tomorrow so he can kind of work with those. We don't want to bring him up dry. I don't give him all of it. I just give him enough of it that he can get his mind ready for that. So we're thankful so much. Terry, are you ready to take off on the... Well, can I say one more thing, Terry?
Go ahead.
One more thing. I told those of you that got in the class early tonight, and I want to just say this to everybody. You know, some people think it's easy. Now, I'm going to be talking about the 7 responsibilities for all humanity. Some people think those responsibilities, if I just get the basics of them down, they are so easy. But you know, if you every step in your life, and you keep those in your mind, that you do not want to break any of those, if I can say it that way. You don't want to abuse any one of those. You don't want to mishandle any one of those. The hardest one that I'm dealing with it, and you have to bring patience in it, is even though somebody's upset at you or mad at you or say things to you, is just relax and just smile. You know, that's a hard thing to do. I'll never forget one time, Wendell, that I had there was a couple in an argument, and the gentleman handed the phone to me, and the young lady's dad was on the phone, and he was just ready just to come over and just whoop us all. And I said, well, just relax a minute. Let's just talk about it just for a minute. I kept saying that. Before you know it, he calmed down. And now every time we meet, he grabs my hand and just puts his arm around my shoulders and asks how I'm doing and everything. And I ask how he's doing. And we, you know, I could have jumped on him. I had a great opportunity, and I probably had I could have done it, but I chose not to. So I'm just relating. I hope you're getting something out of this. Step every day your step. Terry can quote them 7 so good. In fact, Terry, if you would, I'm going to get you to quote them just so they'll be deposited in everybody's mind because you're going to be talking about that. Go ahead, Terry.
The 7 obligations that we have. All mankind have these 7 obligations before the Creator. Is the and they're not in any specific order, so you're not going to find them. Some people list them different according to different traits that's in each one of them. But the prohibition of idolatry, the prohibition of blasphemy, prohibition of murder, prohibition of theft, prohibition of forbidden sexual relations, then the ever mean high, the prohibition of eating meat taken from a living animal, and then the positive commandment to set up just courts and have justice and righteousness in your legal system. Is that what you want?
That's it. Thank you so much, Terry. All right. Without further ado, Terry, go ahead.
All righty. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to apologize if you see me pulling my glasses off and rubbing my eyes. I was born with long eyelashes. My mother told me I would have made a real pretty girl. I think I'm going to donate them when I'm gone to some gal who might want some long eyelashes, but they drive me sometimes, like tonight, they're driving me nuts. The rubbing on my glasses, the itching my eyes. It's not allergies or nothing. It's these real long eyelashes. You know, you will not have to have false eyelashes if you had mine. And for some reason this afternoon, they've been just, you're not getting nowhere near my eye with that one, Thomas. Look what he did to your head, but you playing around. All right. Tonight, we'll take a little bit of a break. We're going to discuss something. We're going to discuss about the holiday for mankind, which the majority of mankind does not know anything about this. I did not know anything. Scotty, did you know anything about this? We didn't know anything about this until several years ago ourselves. And let me just say, it's not necessarily a holiday, but if we could commemorate, let me slow it down. If we could commemorate anything, this is a real good biblical day that can be commemorated by all people, Jews and non-Jews, totally non-religious. And tonight I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to read from the Midrash in one of the points or one of the aspects of this event. And I'm going to take off and go and cover that aspect for the majority of it. But it is just really interesting. And when I was studying this and the things that I mean, today I even saw something I'd never seen before. You're going to get to hear tonight. I think I messaged Scotty today. He sent me back some laughing symbols. But I'm covering it right now because it actually is next Tuesday on the Gregorian calendar. It will be November 2nd. Is this, but it is on the Hebrew calendar. It's Cheshvan 27. So what's important about Cheshvan 27 or Mar? It's also called Mar Cheshvan 27. What can anybody think what that day is? It's only really mentioned one time that I know of. It may be mentioned another time, but this is the first time it's mentioned. If you have your notepads ready, and well as posted, have your notepads and your pens ready, grab you something, write this down. Write down Genesis chapter 8 and verse 14 and 15. Verses 14 and 15, Genesis chapter 8, and we'll be reading from the Art Scroll Humish, Scott Steen edition. And it says, And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was fully dried. God spoke to Noah, saying, "Go forth from the ark." You see, this November 2nd on our calendar, Heshvan 27, is the day that Noah left the ark. The destruction of the flood was over. It was time to begin anew. You can kind of, in a way, you read Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and that's when everything kind of began. This is another beginning. This is when Noah walked out of the ark with him and his family to begin humanity all over again. This is the reason why, like rabbis that Scotty and I serve under, they call it the holiday for humanity. This is humanity's holiday, the day that we got a second chance to start all over. Genesis 8, 14 and 15. On the second month, on the 27th day, the earth was fully dried, and God spoke to Noah, saying, "Go forth from the ark." Anything before I go on to the midrash about this day? It's not a lot said about it, but it's kind of an important day when we look at it on a human scale. And there are some groups on the in different parts of the world that has learned this, and they'll have celebrations, maybe a festival meal, and some time to give God thanks. That's what I'm going to bring about tonight. One of the aspects of him leaving the ark is Thanksgiving, and we're going to get in that in a minute. But as we get into this, the Midrash asks a very interesting question where it says, "And God spoken to Noah, saying, Go forth from the ark." The ancient Torah scholars, they wrote, what stopped Noah from leaving the ark? Why did he have to be told, go from the ark? You would think, hey, it's dry ground, bust the door down, let's go. He would have went, but he didn't. He did not leave until the Creator told him to go. So they said, what stopped Noah from leaving the ark? Why did he need to be commanded from the Holy One, blessed be he, to do so? And they bring about, and they says, the answer is that he was locked into the ark, in which we find out in Genesis chapter 7. Didn't have planned to cover this, but this is important to understand. The day he left the ark, we need to know why he had to be commanded to leave. He just didn't up and leave. It just doesn't say, and Noah and his family left the ark and settled the earth. It says that God told him to leave. Go forth from the ark, you and your wives and your children and their wives. And so it's really interesting on the issue that he was locked into. He was locked into the ark. He just couldn't go out on his own accord. And Rabbi Hirsch had some very interesting information. I learned something about the flood tonight, and I'm looking so forward to sharing this aspect of the flood with you. In Genesis chapter 7, starting in we're going to read verses 15 through 19. I'm reading from the Hirsch Hamish. Let me read this, and I'm going to go and share some stuff with you that he shows in the Hebrew. And it says they came to Noah. This is verse 15 of chapter 7. They came to Noah into the ark in pairs of all flesh, in which there is the spirit of life. Those that entered the ark came in as male and female, all flesh, and God had commanded them. And then God shut him in to protect him. This is where he was shut in and he was locked. Verse 17 says, the deprivation of life was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased, and they raised the ark, and it stood high above the earth. Only when the waters had swelled and increased greatly over the earth did the ark move upon the surface of the water. The waters had swelled so exceedingly high above the earth that all the high mountains that were beneath the, the waters had swelled so exceedingly high above the earth that all the high mountains that were beneath the whole sky were covered. In verse 20, the waters had swelled 15 cubits higher so that the mountains were covered. How many times have we read this? But because we don't know the Hebrew and the grammatical way that it is written in I'm just going to say the grammar is the only way I know how to put it, of the Hebrew. And also we weren't given the information, the traditional information in history that God gave Noah and Moses, and Moses passed it on to Israel. All the ins and outs that we don't see in the written Torah, they received. Now, Rabbi Hirsch puts it like this, starting back at verse 16, that he was shut in, that he shut him in to protect him. He says, Noah had done everything he had been commanded to do. He'd done everything exactly the way he was told to do it. But this alone did not ensure his survival. He had done as he had been told, but it was God, in his intention to preserve life for the future, who shut Noah into the ark and to protect him. What the nature of this protection was is going to be we're going to find out in the following verses. So in verse 17, the story as it is related here seems to be interrupted in the middle of verse 17 and 18. It talks about the Hebrew. There's an interruption there. We don't get that in the Hebrew. And it talks about the order of things, the way it happened. Verse 19, however, begins in the past tense. It's not in the present tense, it's in the past tense. And accordingly, it takes us back in time. And the sense of these verses is what follows. The ark had been built, but no matter how strong it was, it would not have withstood the destruction of the flood. There was a very real danger that the ark would be dashed to pieces on the first mountain top that it struck. Now, I want you to think about this. I can pretty much say that we've all, no matter where we're at in the world, we've seen the videos of the tsunami that hit Japan a few years ago. That little bit of water, that's a lot of water, but we're looking at a worldwide issue, that little bit of water rushing in on an island and just sweeping everything out of its path. Just washing it out. How many of us seen videos of like flash floods in the mountains, and you see all of these trees and timber and they become projectiles, and missiles just come flooding down the mountain in roaring and tumbling force. See, this is what we're allowed to see today. But can you imagine that when the rain came down and the fountains broke forth, the gushing and the torrents of water, and the trees, the vegetation, the stones, and the houses that were there, everything was there, was just all of a sudden, it was just gushing. And there sat the ark, a wooden ark made by the hand of man. And all the animals were inside of it. And the Creator, once they got in there, he shut that. He shut them in. What does it mean? What does it mean that the Creator shut them in? Rabbi Hirsch goes on and says, that the very real danger of the ark would be dashed to pieces. He says, for this reason, the ark from the very outset was in need of divine providence and protections. When the waters first swelled, and swelled is a very minor word compared to what actually happened. When we can see what happens in tsunamis today and flash floodings of the mountains and farmlands that's around us, when you can stand by and watch a river flow through and it washes away bridges and everything in its path by the force of the water. This was going on in a worldwide event everywhere. But when the waters first swelled and covered the earth, covered the surface of the earth, they surely gushed in a torrent. Yet the ark was only raised and stood still. Verse 17. It says, for 40 days upon the earth, and as the waters increased, they raised the ark, and it stood high above the earth. It stood still. It wasn't moving. Can you imagine that much water, that much debris gushing in against the ark, and yet it was just raising up and standing still? Nothing was happening to it. If you could imagine, like this is the ark. If you can imagine the tsunami waters of Japan and the flash floods waters just rushing in all the forest and the trees and everything and boulders just coming flying. And the ark was just sitting right here under God's protection. And everything was just turbulent underneath the ark. And it was sitting still. It was standing still. He says, only after the waters had swelled to an immense level did the ark begin to move. Verse 18, only when the waters had swelled and increased greatly over the earth did the ark move on the surface of the waters. Could you imagine that ark being steadied by the hand of God, protected from all of that debris coming against it, and not one thing was busting through the side of it. It was all going underneath it. And it was just God held it there, protected. I never thought about that. I never thought about how God, when I got to think about how strong these waters are that we see today, that we can get captured on camera and see on our evening news. And yet a man-made wooden boat with all of that, the tsunami of Japan, like it's just coming in, just hitting the side of it, and it's not moving. It's just all it's doing is raising up, not moving 1 inch. It kept raising until the water became 15 cubits above the highest mountain on the face of the earth. And at that point, when there was no more danger of anything, the waters had begun to settle in its turrentness and is above anything that it could strike. God let it move. But until then, it was still, dead still, and just raising up slowly as all that torrent and all that gushiness. And I don't know, man, can anybody, are you grasping what God did with Noah when he locked him in the ark? He did everything he was commanded to do, but yet it wasn't enough. He was commanded to do it. He did what he was supposed to. But to protect future life on earth, God had to protect him. And I could probably go on and preach another whole sermon on that one there, but that hit me this morning when I got to thinking about these rushing waters like we could not understand today. We can't even understand the turbulence of that water. that was coming against that ark, and yet it didn't move. It wasn't shaking. It said it stood still, dead still. And all of that storm of the waters from the middle of the earth busting up from underneath it, and the waters coming down, and the waters coming from this mountain and that mountain, and trees and debris and everything just was just flooding it. And it was just slowly rising and not moving an inch until danger was gone. Then it moved on the face of the earth, on the face of the waters.
Terry,
Yes, Sally said, was the water boiling? Yes, it was, because part of the fountains that were breaking forth from it was also like the volcanoes. The water, it was breaking. The lava was actually boiling the water. That's another whole issue of why we were given the permission to eat meat afterwards, because it leached the earth of its, its nutrients, because the water was actually boiling. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Terry. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, Scotty.
Could you say on the fact that Noah did everything God, the Creator, commanded him to do, put him in the position so that the Creator could protect him?
Yeah, that's what it took. Because if he hadn't have obeyed him, he would have perished in the flood with everybody else.
Yeah.
But because he had done everything God told him to do, it brought him into a divine providence and a divine protection like you and I will probably never comprehend, because we'll never have to go through that. But he was locked inside the divine protection of God. That's why when God had to tell him to leave the ark, command him to leave the ark, is because God closed him into a point that he couldn't leave on his own accord. And I wanted to bring that up before we got into him leaving the ark. I just found that just so, okay, guys, cool.
I just got to say, Baruch Hashem again,
Yes.
Terry.
You heard my wife this morning when I was we got to go to work. No, I got to tell you this. Anything about the divine providence of God with Noah during the flood before we go into the fact that he asked him to leave on the 27th of Heshvan? Anything there, Scotty?
Nope. I guess you just keep on going.
All righty. The 27th of Heshvan. The waters dried up. Genesis chapter 8. The earth had become dry. And then God spoke to Noah saying, go forth from the ark. He unlocked it. He unlocked the door, per se, for them to leave. Now, this wasn't part of it, but it's been part of my studies of Noah. Could you imagine Noah when the door came open and when he set foot on earth for the first time after a year, the devastation he saw? I mean, it just piles of debris everywhere. Mud. Well, what was mud is now dried. But just, there was a flood. There was a horrible flood, greater than anything that's ever been seen on the earth. And he was witnessing the aftermath. And on the 27th of Heshvan, he stepped off the boat by the command of God to restart humanity. And he brought out the animals and everything. And then it said in verse 20, he says, then Noah built an altar unto Hashem, the Creator, and he made an offering. And that offering, that many of the Torah sages and Torah scholars says that it was a todah. It was a thanksgiving offering. So one of the first things he done was to build an altar to give thanks. And that's where we're going to go tonight. We're going to talk about Thanksgiving here a little bit. He goes on in this midrash and he says, when he was locked in there, it says, and God shut him in, and therefore he was not able to leave on his own accord. He prayed to be released from his confinement and wanted the opportunity to thank God by means of a Thanksgiving offering. And that was written by one of the Torah scholars of area, Merkin. He goes on and says, here is the Midrash goes, says, the righteous shall crown themselves because of me. The righteous shall glory in me. For thou wilt deal bountifully with me. Thou didst deal bountifully with me, and say unto me, go forth from the ark. And that's the Midrash. Midrashes are like stories and parables and lessons to help us understand the text in a little deeper way, or maybe in another way, and how it applies. So the first interpretation, as mentioned above, was that Noah was locked in the ark and had to be released. The second interpretation is the entirely different nature, that Noah was so overwhelmed by God's miracle, in particular for his own personal deliverance from the flood, that he resolved only to do God's bidding and not rely on his own choices. See, Noah was good at following his commands. There's several times in Parshas Noah that we read that Noah did everything that God commanded him. So Noah didn't want to rely on his own choices. God had ordered him to enter into the ark with his family, and he would remain until God ordered him to leave. When the order came, Noah left the ark happy and thankfully. What we have in this midrash is an outpouring of thanksgiving. And one of the things when I was studying for tonight's class, what is I find awesome in this year, and pretty much going to be, every year at this time, where Cheshvan 27 falls, at least here in America, what season are we in? This is our season of thanksgiving, gratitude, thankfulness. We have a national holiday called Thanksgiving at the end of this month. And it's interesting that somehow, somewhere, our National Day of Thanksgiving comes really close to the day of real Thanksgiving, when Noah walked off the ark, built an altar, and said thanks. And so Thanksgiving is a really good, strong, one of the main emphasis of this day, the 27th of Cheshvan. Noah was grateful to God not only for the miracles that he experienced with the flood, but also the plain and ordinary laws of nature, which might also be construed as the greatest miracle of all, and which had now returned to their normal pattern. He had worked tremendously hard on the ark for a period of 12 months, and his achievements were considerable. There are many ways of expressing thanksgiving, and words alone are only one form. Sometimes the way a person acts is the greatest form of thanksgiving. Now, before I continue on, I know that some are sitting there going, he worked on the ark more than 12 months. Wasn't it like 100 and something years? No. He didn't spend that whole time working on the ark. Actually, the sages teaches us that he went and planted acres upon acres upon acres of the trees that would grow, and he would harvest to build the ark. There was a lot of work to be done to build the ark before he, quote, drove the first nail. He had to grow the wood, and he grew it. Sages teach that he grew acres upon acres of trees and got all the materials and everything ready. He didn't have Lowe's to run down and go buy him a 2x4. He had to grow his 2x4s. He had to make his, I mean, he built this thing by hand, and there wasn't a Lowe's or Home Depot nowhere. So a lot of that time when you read that, he built the ark in so many hundred, years and so, a lot of that was building and making the material to build the ark. I think it was like, they said it took him 12 months probably to do the whole thing. But I think they said it's like, for the time he actually started the ark, it was like 50 or 60 years to actually build it when he started putting it together. But he goes on and says that sometimes the way a person acts is the greatest form of thanksgiving. And before I go over into the Psalms, or actually I'm going to go over something Rabbi Arusha wrote. Before I go over there, one of the Torah scholars wrote this. It was talking about the name Noah. There's the word Noah. That's how it's pronounced in Hebrew. We say it in English Noah, but it's Noah in Hebrew. There's many different ways. It means peace, rest, and there's different meanings to the word, his name Noah, from other words that sound similar to it. It says another interpretation of the name Noah make reference to the sacrifice that Noah had made when the ark had come still on the land. It says that God smelled a sweet savior. In Hebrew, sweet is let me look at the Hebrew here. It's nikolhak, the kiok. I'm trying to pronounce that right. It's kind of hard, but anyhow, that's what the word sweet is, and we can see the name Noah in the word sweet. So we see that God smelled a sweet savior. But this Torah scholar writes, and I thought this is really interesting. He says, the beautiful thought that is, he says, the beautiful thought that it was not the offering that had the sweet aroma, but the person who brought the offering with the character of good deeds was the real sweet aroma that pleased God. That what the Creator smelled in the thanksgiving was the very deed of him giving thanks, was the sweet aroma. I'm going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. I'm going to start with reading from the work. Rabbi Arush of Jerusalem, Israel, wrote a book called The Garden of Gratitude. Make sure I didn't get I was looking at this before I started. I hope I didn't move my bookmark. Okay, here we go. Thanking the Creator, a labor of gratitude. Feeling grateful to the Creator is indeed our most important task. We build a steadfast connection by way of our gratitude to Him. Therefore, as long as our gratitude to the Creator is deficient, our connection to the Creator remains weak and incomplete. Let me say that again. As long as our gratitude to the Creator is deficient, our connection to Him remains weak and incomplete. Our gratitude opens the upper gates of heaven and enables us to be judged favorably. Thankfulness cancels all accusations. The Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, explains that gratitude is essentially the purpose of man's creation. It is prime expression of emunah, or faith. It is the recognition that all the good the Creator has bestowed upon a person every moment of his life. The grateful individual does not take things at face value. He perceives that even the seemingly undesirable things in life are actually a result of divine providence and for the best, whether or not he comprehends it. I think Karen was talking a little bit about that before we got started. Through gratitude, a person attains spiritual awareness, the cognizance that there is no real difference between stern judgment and mercy, since the Creator does everything for a person's ultimate good. Expression of our gratitude must consequently be the main focus of our prayers. It should precede everything else that may constitute as our prayers, such as confession, repentance, special requests, and pleas. Before everything else, one must convey his gratitude. He goes on to say, on further into this chapter, he says, most people assume that true prayer, now see, we're talking about prayer, that true prayer requires praying with tears streaming down their face. People are concerned that if they do not succeed in crying, their prayers aren't sincere enough. True. The Gemara teaches us that the gates of tears are never locked. However, Rabbi Natan of Breslev teaches that Rabbi Natan of Breslev teaches that prayer with joy surpasses prayers with tears. Prayer is an aspect of joy. Since one must pray in joy, as it is written, worship the Creator with gladness, Psalms 100. And we're going to be going to that psalm here in just a second. When our sages spoke of praying with tears, the intention was that a person should be roused to cry, not from commonplace sadness, but rather from ecstasy, from his sense of joy, as well as from his yearning to grow closer to the Creator. Imagine that a son approaches his father and tearfully pleads for something. Invariably, the father's mercy will be roused and he will fulfill the son's request. But now let's imagine if the son, who is always joyful, always praising and thanking the father, the son asks nothing of his father, the father will be deeply gratified by the son's words of gratitude and praise and will constantly want to give his son more of his own on his own accord. The son who comes before his father in tears inspires the father's mercy and receives whatever he requests. Yet the son who is constantly praising the father and thanking him joyfully inspires his father's attribute of love. Consequently, the father will always give to such a son generously. Crying may arouse the attributes of mercy and result in receiving specific things for which one is crying. At the same time, joy and thankfulness arouse love and desire, attributes much more powerful than mercy. Joy and gratitude invoke divine abundance. In Psalms 100, verses 1 and 2, I want to read that, and then I'm going to read Rabbi Hirsch's teaching on verse 2, which is really good. Psalms 100, verses 1 and 2. The whole psalm is great. I'm just covering these two here. It says, a psalm of thanksgiving, a call out to the Creator. Everyone says, call out to the Creator, everyone on earth. Remember Noah, he built the ark. Built the altar afterwards, and he offers up a thanksgiving. This is the first thing he does after he steps off the ark, is to give a thanksgiving, gratitude to the Creator. because he knows what it was like on that earth. Could you imagine the sounds that he heard from underneath the bottom of that ark as it sat still and not moving? And he could hear the churning and the banging of the logs and the debris that was underneath him. And he just slowly began to raise up higher and higher, and it became less and less and less until he got above the mountain, so that once it started moving, it wouldn't smash into a mountain peak and just be dashed to pieces. It didn't start moving until he was out of danger. And only by the hand of the Creator could have done that to protect him in such a way. He did everything that God commanded him to do. And in result, God closed him up and kept him protected. He is my rock. He is my refuge. And then when he got out of danger, then it would move. So call out to the Creator, everyone on earth. Serve the Creator with gladness. Come before him with joyful song. Again, this is all picturing what Heshvan 27, the day that Noah left the ark, the real day of Thanksgiving. In verse 2, where he says, serve or worship the Creator with gladness and come to him with joyful song. Rabbi Hirsch says, it is regrettable that the concept of divine service is understood to consist primarily of the ritual of prayer and sacrifice. He says, regrettably, that's the only picture of divine service is prayer and sacrifice. This is not in accordance with the way the Jewish nation understands it. The true service of the Creator is primarily and most truly performed in the process of day-to-day living. To serve the Creator means to devote all of one's energy, all of the means and talents at one's disposal, and every moment of one's life to the execution of the Creator's will. And he whose entire life is devoted to the service of the Creator in spirit is called, and this is one of the names that you're going to recognize, Avadia. Most people that don't know Hebrew pronounce it Obadiah. But Obadiah is correctly pronounced Avadia, servant of God. Prayer and the offerings are called divine service only because through them we prepare and consecrate ourselves anew each time for that which is the actual service of the Creator. They are symbolic acts, and he goes through a whole lot more in the other Psalms. And he goes on and says, here in the first verse of Psalms 100, where it says a psalm of thanksgiving, wake up everyone on earth, praise God. This solemnity is recapitulated in the call to the world to render homage to the Creator. At the same time, and that's with thanksgiving, to render to him thanksgiving. At the same time, however, mankind is called upon to dedicate itself as a life of solemn divine service with rejoicing, to complete it with joy. For it is such life and such a life only that God can give true joy. The feeling of steady and constant spiritual and moral growth the continuous growth of all that is truly human that is in us, a blissful, joyful life that is not subject to change in any manner by the outward circumstances of which life brings. Our blissful joy, and I'm guarantee you, every one of us struggle with this. I'm one too. When something bad happens, the first thing you do is you get sad, you complain, you get mad. But something to grow toward is a blissful joy that is not subject to change. The joy is not subject to change, no matter what happens in life. Thus, serving the Creator with all of our lives should not be to us a burden to be borne because of fear. We are summoned to serve the Creator with gladness. Heshvan 27. This year, November 2nd. If you can take some time to set aside and pray to your Creator, but prayers of thanksgiving, prayers of gratitude. Be like Noah. Let the altar of your heart and the altar of your mind have nothing but thanksgiving. He walked out into a devastated world. Understand, there was not a sound of the birds or the crickets. The village where the kids were playing in the streets were gone. The sounds of horses and cattle and all of the living in a village or a city at that time would have sound like. Could you imagine? Let's say you live in a town and you go outside. There's no airplanes flying over. There's no cars going down the road. There's no honking. No phones are ringing. No trash trucks emptying out trash bins. Everything in normal life is gone. Utter silence, deadness. You just came through a great flood. You heard the sounds of the rushing waters and the debris flowing beneath your feet, and yet you weren't moved. And for a year, you floated on the water, taking care of the animals. And then the ark comes to settle on the earth, and he waits for it to get dry. He waits for God to say, go, leave the ark. And the first thing he does was offer up thanksgiving in the middle of total destruction. Could you imagine the view he had while he was giving thanks to the Creator from on top of that ark? And he was looking out, and just there was twisted limbs and debris and just whatever was left of life that was on the earth was just piled up in piles and just twisted like you would never believe before. And just there's ruts and holes in the ground where the water just gushed through. Everything was just like, we know what total destruction looks like from an atomic bomb when we look at what happened in Japan in 1940s. But can imagine that was nothing compared to what the flood did, the devastation to the earth. And yet the first thing he done was offer up thanksgiving. And so Heshvan 27 is a day of thanks that all humanity can take a part in. Scotty, got anything going on there?
Terry, I think everything is great. A lot of the chatter on the radio was nobody ever. It's like they said they've never heard anything like this before. A few people on there have, but some say they've never heard anything like this before. So awesome! Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you so much. Great lesson. Great lesson. Does anybody here in the Zoom room have a
Yeah,
question?
we're open up for questions and comments for the rest of the class.
What, Terry, what was that date again so everybody could mark that down on the calendar?
Okay. On our calendar, on the Gregorian calendar we have today, it's November 2nd. On the Hebrew calendar, it's Mar Heshvan 27.
Okay. Okay.
And every year, this is an opportunity, like, here in the United States and other countries that have, similar days of Thanksgiving. This is the real day of Thanksgiving. It's the real day when
Awesome.
humanity was about to start over again, to get its second chance.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Fred unmuted his mic. Fred, do you have a question tonight?
Something like that. My question is something I've been thinking about this for a long time concerning the flood, because I heard someone say, I don't know if it was a rabbi or something, said that it was just something about the earth just being, part of the earth was covered with water. But when I read this portion that I'm reading, it seems like that didn't make any sense. What makes sense to me is just like when Hashem in the creation, he separated the waters from above from the waters below. Okay. So the question in my mind, here's I don't know if this is a question or just my opinion or your opinion. So when the ark was upon the waters, the flood covered the globe, like you said, it's massive. So basically, he took the ark and he put it up in the clouds. Because if you go up to some certain mountains, like the Smoky Mountains, they're up in the clouds. So I'm just thinking, if Hashem covered the world with water in the flood that we're talking about today, and like you're talking about, and then there's lava from out and there's volcanoes. So water met water again, like in creation, because the ark had to go up. And just like you said, I didn't even think about what you were saying until you described, when the ark was starting to climb, it was probably hitting mountains and trees and maybe the cries of the people, and maybe there was dinosaurs or something was going on. But I guess what I wanted to asking is about is so the ark had to go up to even into the clouds that far up.
Yeah, it had to go above 15 cubics above the highest mountain. So the water went 15 cubics above the mountains. So we would have to say the highest mountain had to be, what I can't remember what the cubit is, but it had to be above that mountain so that it wouldn't dash against it once it started moving. But it wasn't allowed to move and hit anything until after the water got at a safe level.
Yeah, because that's why I'm just saying, because I never thought about that until you said something. But because we don't even think about the cries of the people, and there were probably giants back in the day, and a lot bigger animals. So you just had to think that, like when the flood subsided. So it makes you wonder why we have fossil fuels and all that stuff, like you're talking about, because the pressure of the water was probably so intense and so, like you said, we can't even imagine this miracle.
Yeah, we can't even. We could probably try to write the best story we could using the most horrific language that we would have in our language, whatever language it is, and probably wouldn't even scratch the surface of what really happened. Now, that being said, is a global flood. I don't have the reference with me. I had heard about it, but there is a reference in the Torah that there is one place on earth that the flood waters did not touch. And that is what we call the land of Israel today. It is stated that the devastation that came upon the world did not touch that land. I don't have the reference, but it is there. It is there. I can find it for you. I don't have it with me. It kind of came to mind as Fred was talking. So that's another whole subject. We'll cover it again. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about studying Torah. There's probably a million lifetimes worth of points to study within those 5 books.
Terry, I was listening to one of the rabbis and teachers that I try to listen to every day, and who put out daily things. And, uh, you know, a lot of people, I'm trying to say this humbly, because I used to be one of these people, and I only picked and chose what I wanted to study, and I felt I didn't need the rest of it to get me by. But now, since I have started the journey of Parsha, and I had questions about Parsha. Why do we study this? Why is this studied every year? Do you not get it the first time? And I
Well, I
realized.
can answer that for you.
Go ahead, because you're probably going to say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to tell you a little story.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, tell us one.
There's a little Jewish boy comes up to his dad and see they just finished reading Deuteronomy and they started reading Genesis again. And the little boy says, "Daddy, didn't we just read that last year? Why are we reading this again?" And the father looked at him and says, "Well, you're not the same person you was last year."
Yeah. Well, this rabbi gave, as I had already contemplated in my mind about studying Parsha, and now we're going through it. This is going to be my fifth time through it, and I'm sad to say that the first 3 or 4 times I only sporadically listened. When I had the time, I only sporadically listened. I wonder if Noah would have done that and just, when I get the time, I'll start putting some stuff together, So, but I just throw that in. That didn't cost you nothing, everybody. But one of the things that I really love what this rabbi said was, part of the reason is just that everybody is studying the same portions all the time is to bring everybody into, we're all studying the same text at the same time. It's to bring us into a one mind position that we're studying the same text at the same time all around the world. Even though the time zones are different, there are different prayers being prayed all the time. Torah is being studied all the time. And that's what we're after. We're after the study of the Torah 24 hours a day. That's hard to think about. And when you start doing that, things like what you just talked about tonight become revealed to you, and it's hard to even. Some of this stuff just gets so full. I like what Amuela says, and you have to you can't even sleep on it because you can't sleep. It's just so exciting to know what the Creator did to bring everything about. Anyway, I don't mean to ramble on. I just think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
And he did it for the future of humanity.
Yes.
And so if you can think about your own individual life and how there are times that he takes you and protects you. Yes, he's protecting you, but he's also protecting humanity.
Yeah.
One person at a time.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
Scotty, can you write this down and help me remember this? To look up that reference where the floodwaters didn't have. I've got another book on Noah. I think it's in it. And I've got some other commentary, I think, that mentions it as well. I'll have to go find it. It's just been a while since I've read it, so I don't have it at the top of my head. Wish I thought about it, and brought as a piece of information for tonight. But this morning when I got to studying, how the Creator protected Noah during all of that, I got locked. It's been on my mind all day.
I remember reading that too, but I don't remember exactly the particular read that I was in at that time. But I remember reading that too, and I remember reading that. So I'll
have to look it up.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
And there's another question there that I want to answer, but I want to answer it in a different format than or different lesson than this one because it will come up.
Okay. Okay.
If you don't mind, Gene, I want because it could be needs to be handled in a certain way, that particular question, and I want to make sure that I have have all the information there to give the best answer possible.
Understandable. Understandable. I like
And
that.
write her question down too, because it's one I want us to, because Scotty and I are gathering a list of questions that we're getting, and everything. We will be covering them. We're not going to answer them. We're just building a list, and they'll fit in these different places where we're teaching. They'll fit in these areas.
I'm copying these now and putting them over into a text for us now, Terry. Okay. All right. Terry, are we making our descent?
Yeah, we're ready if everyone else is ready. I know Veronica asked a question there, but I'll answer that one, answer the one on the exact text where it talks about it, and I'll cover all of that.
That's a good question.
Yeah, no.
That we'll have to cover that one.
It'll all be part of that one answer.
Okay.
And I'll try to put it all together, and maybe one of our nights is before we get into one of our classes, I may just come back to that question, but I just want to be prepared with everything. Like I said, right now, it's not on top of my head right now. Genesis chapter 7 and 8's in my head.
Every one of those questions are great questions.
No, they are. That's why we ask for questions too, because some of these questions are just classes in their own, and they're great ideas for classes. And instead of just, like right now I'm covering blasphemy, and then after that, we're going to be getting into the prohibition of murder. And that's very intense. Murder and theft are two of the major intense, excuse me, obligations that we have. So from time to time, it's nice to take a sidestep off of it, so you're not just constantly on something.
Right.
Take a break, and we can use these questions and maybe take one or two of them and make them into a full class as a sidestep to help everybody's mind get some break from just, you might like spinach, but too much of it could be too much.
I think that's awesome. I would like to say, those of you that are listening by the radio tonight, you can just email if you have any questions at all. I know some of you do, but you can email those questions to us there at powerfaithradio at powerfaithradio@bellsouth.net. And you can also go on over to the Facebook page, B'nai Noach Connection with Israel. I believe that's a public page. It's not a private page, right?
It's a public page.
And you can find there the video, and you can actually comment and ask a question there. Or you can go over to Torah for the Nations YouTube channel, and you can place a comment there. So thank you all so much. So the questions are still coming in there on that same subject right there. So
yeah, matter of fact, Gene says the first minister is Abraham, which is the first covenant in Noah. And as I think Rabbi taught us the other night, that Abraham was the very first evangelist. So
yeah,
Scotty's in good company there.
Yeah. All right. Well, Terry, it's been almost an hour and a half. It's been an hour and 20 minutes, and I'd say by the time we get closed out here, it'll be that time, hour and a half. I do want to remind everybody to remember Sunday night, Rabbi Pesach Sherbo will be here at 10 p.m. New York time. That's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I know that Wendy texted earlier prior to us getting everything going and was asking about the class tonight. She's already in daylight savings time. And of course, we don't change yet. When do we change?
November 7th.
November 7th. So Wendy will catch up to you. And I know in some parts of the world it's already tomorrow. And what I want to know is I want them to send me information about what I'm going to have to face tomorrow if they're already facing it.
So we've actually got some profits going on over there.
Could be. So anyway, listen, everybody, we so much appreciate you coming, spending time with us, enjoying the class. If I can, just real quick, I want to thank Richard Helton for being here tonight. We gave tzedakah for you, Richard. And also we've got Veronica Port. You'll never know how much we love you. And Fred, we really appreciate you, your knowledge and information and your questions. We really like it. Karen, Karen is great on Karen is just knowledgeable. What I was going to say is, when Karen came in, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to start. She was talking about. Name. I'm not going to say it. See, I told you I wasn't going to say it. I'm not going to go there. So, Karen, it's so glad to have you and Harold with us tonight, and of course my lovely wife Annie Helton. Now, those of you that are watching by YouTube, and I'm not forgot the others, you can't see those that I mentioned because their picture is not up. If their camera's not on, you don't see them, but they are here in the Zoom room with us. And then the pictures you can see is Amuela Asher. Wave, Amuela. She's Yeoman Asher. She's take care of bringing your questions over from YouTube and Facebook on over into the Zoom room so that Terry and I can see those. Then we got Thomas, Wave Thomas. Thomas is kindly helping probe and watch those things too. And then we got Wendell. Wendell is a permanent fixture. Wendell is like that decorative. I don't want to call him a whatnot. I want to. He's like that decoration that when he comes in, it's like, oh, now the house is a home because we got this. We got Wendell in here. Wendell, it's so glad to always see you, and you always come in with a smiling face, and you're just relaxed and you just bring peace into the situation. Good to have you. And then of course, the teacher, Terry Hayes. He is my mentor. He is the one that I go to when I've got questions. No, that's far from that. And remember, we are here for Rabbi Pesach Sherbo. This is actually his class, his meeting time, and he has asked us to, and I feel privileged that he's asked us to kindly take this part over for a while and do some teaching and presenting of the Torah, and I count it a privilege. Now, I'd also like to say that Shira Sherbo, did I say that correctly? Yes. She's been uploading some videos that are very informative. I just think they're so great. You can find those over on Torah for the Nations YouTube channel. While you're over there, give a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Now, you didn't think I was going to get all that in, did you, Terry? And then over on the Facebook page, share those videos on all your social media, and we just so appreciate it. Well, Terry, are we ready to back out?
Yep, we're ready to back out.
Those of you that are on Power Faith Radio, please come back and be with us at 8 p.m. Next Wednesday, and also 10 p.m. on Sunday night. And we will see everybody later.